Hello. I'm just dropping in this sort of update, as it were. If you actually saw the post on the website, or I spread it on all the social media places, this is basically the same thing. At this point, it's just a lot easier for me to record stuff than it is for me to type and write things out. And even though I already wrote this out, I figured I'd share it with you here because I can't guarantee that everybody who listens to the show necessarily went to their website and or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever and actually saw the post. So I felt it is my duty as a podcaster to update you through the method that, well, you get most of the show. So, in the absence of the show and everything, I've kind of been doing a lot of thinking. And basically, right now, I'm kind of going to be doing sort of a reset on the show. Not like a full dump everything and reboot, but kind of a sort of reset. And before I get to that, I kind of want to, again, I'm going through basically the blog post that I just put up at odddadoutpodcast.com. I probably need to stick slash reboot or something onto this. Maybe later. But before I get too rambly, I'm just going to jump into it because otherwise, you know me at this point, I'll go off on some crazy tangent and I'll never get to sharing this. So, it's been a weird few months and all this time away, I've had a lot of time to think about what I want to do with the show because it's like with everything going on in the world as it is, I've honestly not been sure whether or not I should come back at all. It's been rough. I mean, between, lockdown, COVID life, boys at home for school, my wife working from home, and everything else going on in the world being a fucking mess right now, it really makes it hard to sit down and record and be silly and funny when they're like, I'm generally angry when I look at the news and I see how people are being in a general way, and it makes me angry. And it's not the type of angry I get from pointing out dumbasses in the news. It's anger management angry. But that's a whole other thing. But, with even that aside, with everything else going on, it's made it where I've had a lot harder time for basically all of 2020. I've really been struggling with just getting content out, just producing episodes, coming up with topics for the show. I haven't listened to a lot of new podcasts recently. I've kind of been just digging into my favorites and stuff that I'm more committed to. I've actually kind of whittled down my list and like a lot of the stuff that I'm like, well, I don't really listen to this all that much anymore. And, things like even saying like, oh, the quality of this show kind of fell off or they veered into something else. And so I'm not really listening to this anymore. And so that a lot of that's happened. And so I haven't started listening to a lot of new shows. And oddly enough, a lot of shows that I started listening to ended shortly after. I was like, well, fuck. So that's part of why I haven't had a lot of new podcast recommendations. And to kind of follow a similar observation from Bandrew Scott from Podcastage, politics has just infested all of the news for a while now. And he actually almost completely stopped covering news. And he does a tech show. He's talking about, creator news, YouTube news, Facebook, streaming podcast, industry stuff, creators and tech stuff, microphone stuff. And even in that, politics got into tech stuff, and to the point where he just I can't cover news stories because everything's got some political lean. And I look for stupid people doing stupid shit in the news to make fun of them because they're being stupid. And so much shit has just been everything is politics. And I'll say in my outside of the microphone life, I've gotten much more into it myself, but that's not what I do here. And I do make it a specific point to keep politics out of the show for the most part. And with that, it makes it a lot harder to find news, because it's not that people aren't doing stupid shit. It's that people aren't writing news stories about it because there's a lot more clicks in politics. But it just makes it really hard to avoid. And I'm sure it'll settle down depending on how everything settles down. But at the same time, I've also had cases where I was outright accused of racism because of the ethnicity of the people in some of the news stories I cover. And I just want to point out, I really don't care. Black, white, brown, green, orange, purple, red, yellow, blue, indigo, violet, red, Roy G. Biv. Yeah, that's something. I don't care if you have polka dots. But you might want to go to the doctor. If you do something stupid, something like humorously stupid, I'm going to make fun of you for it. It's really not about you. It's really about the stupid shit you did, that why you ended up in the news. So, and I always go back to this woman because it's just a perfect example. Maybe don't inject smoothies into your veins, and I'm not going to call you a dumb fuck. Say, I'm not going to avoid, or I'm not going to choose to or avoid making fun of somebody because of their race, because I don't care. Stupid is stupid. A white person being stupid is the same stupid as a black person or an Asian person or a Hispanic person being stupid. Stupid is stupid. I don't care who or what you are. So, just there. Okay. And if you feel that I'm being biased, or I have some sort of, I'm being discriminatory because of what news stories I cover, that's your opinion. Okay? You can have that. You have the freedom to have that. Unless you live in one of those particular countries or places where having the wrong opinion can get you sent to a, prison camp or a re-education facility. Wink, wink. But I'm sorry. I have fun making fun of the news. It is probably the silliest part of the show. And it's something that I thoroughly enjoy because I get to just make fun of people being dumb shits. Okay? People are stupid, and I've continuously gotten positive feedback. Generally, people like the news segments just because it's funny. It's consistently one of the funniest parts of the show. And I'm not going to give that up. I really don't. I just have to work harder on it and find more stuff. Because as long as people are being jackasses, I want to be calling them jackasses. That's just kind of it. So, that's one thing. But like I said, for most of 2020, the show's kind of fallen off. And again, in part because it was hard for me to find new stuff. And in part because I wasn't listening to as many podcasts. So I didn't have a lot of recommendations for that segment. And I didn't have a lot of news stuff, and with everything going on at home, I didn't have the time to commit to looking for news and looking up new podcasts and listening to stuff to be able to feature them. And so I wasn't. And So there was less news. There were fewer podcasts. I don't think I had more than 1 year. Maybe. I don't think I did any guests at all for 2020. And honestly, most of what I was talking about kind of just rolled into a cycle of homeschool bitching with COVID stuff and gardening talk. And although gardening talk is exciting for me because I'm sorry, I'm old and I'm a nerd, I doubt this is the kind of subject matter you've listened. This is not a gardening hour with Adam. And I know I need to it's something I need to get away with or get away from, but it was a lot of, what was I doing? I was at home doing the homeschool distance learning shit with my kids, and I built gardens. That's it. That was about all that was going on in my life. And when such a big chunk of the content of the show is what's going on in my life, it starts getting boring. And honestly, I don't think most of the episodes that I did this year were very good. I mean, there were some funny moments and there were some funny bits here and there. But when I look back, overall, the content and the episode quality was weak. It was just, the show wasn't as funny and it wasn't as fun as it has been in the past. Damn COVID. My favorite episode all year was my little bonus episode that I did for International Podcast Day with all the people sending me in clips talking about what they love about podcasting, because I love podcasting and I love getting to hear that. And so that was probably one of my favorite episodes all year. It was just fun. And it was fun getting to have that sort of feedback and hearing other voices and all that stuff. But really most of the year I was just too tired or stressed out to really give the show the attention it needs to be entertaining at all. And, this is me saying I don't feel the show was entertaining for a lot of the year. That's why I had less of a problem with taking the break that I have, because I think I needed it. I think I needed it to recharge. I think I needed it to reassess the show. And, most of the show all year was just kind of long ramble sessions. I wasn't doing the various segments really. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't have any guests this year. And, for all of 2019, I pretty consistently had over a dozen guests. I think there were a few repeats in there because of, Napod Pomo, but I did a lot of guests in 2019, especially for a show that didn't have guests before 2019. And I kind of dropped the ball this year on doing that. And I want to get back into that, but I don't know how, again, because right now, world life, home recording office situations make it difficult to do. But it is something I want to get back to, is having guests on the show, doing guest spots myself. But that's, further down the line. So this brings me to kind of where I am and where things are going with the show. And we're in that, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And you probably should flip that. The more things stay the same, the more they're going to change, which doesn't make as much sense. Long story short, we're going to start the show over, kind of. I'm going to start fresh. I'm going to keep the core of the show. The core bit of the show, which has always been my ramblings and personal stories, the odd, weird news shit, making fun of stupid people in the news and weird shit, and talking about other podcasts and telling you about other podcasts you should listen to, because I just love doing it. This show has been that for the longest time. That's really kind of if you had to say, what do I do on this show? That's what I do. I ramble, I make fun of the news, and I tell you about other podcasts that I think you should be listening to. And so I'm going to continue to do that. but there's going to be some changes. Some of them are smaller, some of them are bigger. But first off, I have been working on creating a new original theme for the show. And I've been using the same song for 5 years now. It's called Big Rock. It was made by Kevin MacLeod. The dude makes music that is used in like almost every indie podcast. Seriously, everybody uses Kevin MacLeod's stuff. It's a great song. I honestly will just listen to it in the car sometimes, and I don't get bored with it. But if you've listened to me for probably a while, if you've been a long time listener, I kind of tinker with stuff, and I'm a creative person of many outlets. I draw, I paint, I write, and I've been playing the guitar for over 20 years. It's not to say I'm very good, but I've been playing for over 20 years, but I never actually tried writing my own music. Well, my boys, in part of their music classes for school, started tinkering around with these online music creation programs. One of them was using Soundtrap, I believe, and I had an account with BandLab. And so I started playing around with BandLab and trying to make some music, and pulled out my guitar and recorded some riffs and have created what is, I've still got a little work to do on it, but I have created a new theme for the show. Now, I don't know if I'm going to stick with it or if I'm going to work on something else or re-record it, but I've worked on a new theme for the show. I'm going to try and make some new bumpers for the different segments. Again, I'm going to keep those same core segments. I want to keep those basic segments. And I do intend to be working a lot harder to make sure that every episode has a podcast recommendation or review and at least one news story for me to make fun of. I'm probably going to drop the Jackass of the Week title. Just cause that makes it like I have to find some big thing. And if I only find one decent person to make fun of, well, they're just de facto Jackass of the Week. But I think I'm just going to drop it. And honestly, doing that segment, and like, it's more from a laziness perspective. Like, oh, I got to drop this sound in here and I got to line this and honestly, the donkey sound effect that I was using got kind of annoying. Excuse me, hiccups there. So I decided, I'm just going to drop it. Yeah, it's a little laziness, a little annoying myself with this stupid donkey. Like I said, I'm still going to have all of my personal stories and adventures and whatever the hell we're doing. And I've kind of thought about, again, adding a little more of the dad into the show. Kind of throwing my take on some articles from parenting blogs and shit like that. Kind of a halfway between the dadisms and ramblings and the news stuff, and maybe take a look at, it's like, shit, it's like, oh, new study finds that blah, 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 parenting bullshit, and giving you my take on some of that sort of shit. Cause that'd be funny. Cause it'd be fun and funny and silly. And it's also kind of on brand. It's on brand with all of my snark and the dadism of it. So I'm thinking about doing similar to that type of stuff, but that stuff, that's the little stuff, new music, new bumpers, maybe. And just cause I haven't made them, I'm saying maybe cause I haven't made those yet. I've been working on the music and, just kind of renewed, stuff, but then we get the big changes. So remember how I said I'm going to be kind of doing a reset of the show? Well, around the start of the year, I'm going to kind of purge the website. I mean, not completely purge the website. I'm not going to start from scratch because fuck, it takes so long time making a website. But what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to do kind of a reset of the recommended listening segments. And what I'm intending to do is basically start all of my podcast recommendations from scratch. And I'll probably keep the page as it exists right now. I'll save that and it'll be kind of like a legacy. Hey, here's previously mentioned shows. But, and because that page right now is just a big list. It's not even a list. It's just, here's a gallery of shows and links to those shows. And a lot of them are no longer around. A lot of them had major changes to where they're nothing like they previously were. A lot of them, some of them changed names, changed hosts. Some of them just completely, hey, this isn't the same show it used to be, but it's on the same feed. Some of them just outright stopped. They are no longer in existence. There's a lot of dead shows on that list now. And there's some shows that as time went by, I no longer listen to them, and I don't even necessarily recommend them anymore. So like I will stand by what I said when I said it at the time that I said something about any given show, but I don't necessarily recommend them anymore. Just kind of lost interest in them. So what I'm planning to do is kind of going back to the beginning and I'll revisit a lot of shows that I've featured in the past. I'll probably start working through the list of shows I've done before and kind of take a second look at them, give a fresh review, fresh take, and be doing a little more of a review. And I don't want to sit there and rip into a show. I'm not going to sit there and talk shit about a show that I no longer listen to, but I'm going to do some more in-depth reviews. And along with that, I'm also going to be doing more written reviews and have my kind of thoughts and reviews as a separate post on the website. So that if you just want to go and read what I think about any particular podcast that I've talked about, then, and without having to go and listen to the whole episode or scroll to find it or whatever, and just get my thoughts, you can do that. And again, I'll have all the links to, like I've always done, links to those shows and where you can connect with them. And I'm thinking about maybe doing a rating system. I don't know. I feel like who the fuck am I to rate a show other than just, some asshole in Arizona talking shit about it, whatever. So I may or may not make a rating system. It'll probably be like literally just little oddballs or whatever weird shit because I'm stupid like that. But I don't know. But I'm going to like I said, I'm going to go back and I'm going to revisit a lot of shows that I've already talked about. And I may just do some sort of traditional reviews. Like somebody suggests a show that they think I should listen to, and maybe you want my take on it. Like, hey, I've never listened to Canadian true crime. I think that's actually a thing. I've never listened to that. Hey, what do you think of it? Somebody wants my opinion on a podcast. I don't know why they would want my opinion on a podcast, but hey, you've been listening for this much, so shit. But maybe there's something they want to hear me talk about. So I'll give it a listen and I'll give it an honest review. And I will write a written review for that and give it my take. I want to do that. And sorry if there's a bunch of noise. I've got a bunch of shit on the desk. So I'm wanting to do that. And, there's also kind of, that kind of goes hand in hand with that, doing all this writing and stuff. At least for the time being, with the relaunching of the show, I'm going to be moving to a bi-weekly release. Honestly, it's in part for my own personal sanity and in part so that I have more time to work on the show. Because when I was trying to get news stories and podcast reviews and whatever the fuck am I going to talk about this week together, I'd basically, I'd stop recording. I'd put the episode out and immediately I'm having to start researching. I wouldn't say researching. I'm trying to, search the news and try and figure out what am I going to talk about for next week almost immediately. And it's really hard to do and live a life and be dad and husband and, all the shit that we've got to do. And it just got to be too much. And with wanting to do more thorough show notes and really write up full blog posts to kind of cover, what I'm talking about and to write up, thorough, well thought out reviews for podcasts. I just need more time. I want to be able to do this right. I want to be able to commit good time to stuff, and I can't commit good amounts of time without sacrificing other things. And so I have to sacrifice podcast time to make the podcast better. Basically, I have to give up one show a week to make the other episodes that I'm doing better and create better content for you online on the website, do more on the website besides just say, hey, show and a show and a show and a show. And so I just want to, I need to have more time to produce the show, you could say. And so, yeah, that's really what that's going to kind of come down to is, and it may not be permanent. It may be that I'm able once, the world settles down a bit, maybe I'll be able to get back to doing a weekly show and keep up with blog posts and keep up with podcast reviews. And back on the subject of podcast written reviews, I will also be accepting guest reviews. If somebody wants to write up their personal review of something, not necessarily what I'm listening to, I may reach out to somebody and say, hey, I don't listen to this, but I know you do. Would you be up for writing a review for the website? And totally give you credit for it. I'm not paying anything because I don't make any money doing this, but maybe someday, I don't know, but I may have guest reviews and maybe you can record your review. I don't fucking know. But I want to do more. I want to make my show and the segments of my show better. I want to do better with the stuff that I do. So yeah, that's kind of where all that is, and I need to spend more time making this craziness that is. And, because I want to grow the show. And I know in the last 5 years, I have not done much to do that. And I've not put a lot of effort into this show. I've put a lot of effort into being good at what I do, but not necessarily with creating content with a wider appeal. And I don't necessarily need a wider appeal, but of a quality that other people may want to listen to. Yeah, that's what I go for. So I want to do what I do better with the hope that I get a bigger following, you could say. So yeah, I'm trying to, after 5 years and nearly 200, I'm approaching, I don't even know what episode number I think I'm in the 180s right now. I would have passed 200 already if it weren't for my repeated breaks this year. But I think I was supposed to actually hit 200 back in May if I hadn't taken any breaks. But I kind of want to make a commitment to the quality of the show and to trying to grow things. So that's that. Because I'm trying to do what is best for me and best for the show, because, being away and spending as much time away from the show as I have, it's been really hard, because on the one hand, I love doing this. I love sitting down behind the mic and talking to you and sharing all of my bullshit. But at the same time, all this time away, it made me question whether or not I should even bother bringing the show back. I've talked in the past about how I have a very small audience, and, I don't, I put in a lot of time over the years, just basically for me to be sitting here rambling, and I guess my imposter syndrome or whatever, and low self-esteem stuff, I don't think the lack of my show is going to drastically affect anybody's life. Although, with the announcement in the blog post of the pending return of the show, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback and a lot of people that are really excited to hear from me again. So that's nice to hear. So like I said, I love doing this. And for all of the, sometimes I feel like, what's the point? Then I get people who say, I've been missing your show and I've been forced to listen to something else because you weren't there. And now I'm like, well, shit, I guess I need to do something. Because there are people out there who care that I haven't had any new shows and who miss my whatever the fuck I do. But, if I'm going to do it, I've got to find a little more balance. I've worked myself sick in the past. And so this is kind of my finding balance. I want to improve the show, but not at, the expense of my family or my health or just my ability to do it. I'm getting old. My wife would say I'm very old already, but I'm getting older. I can't, stay up I can stay up until 3 a.m. Pull back the curtain. It's 3:30 in the morning right now. But I can't roll through as well as I did 5 years ago. I've got bigger kids with more, they're a little more demanding of my time, which seemed counterintuitive to having babies before. But, when they're old enough to insist that you do shit with them, then they're a lot more literally demanding of your time. But, like I said, I just love this too much to completely give up, but I kind of just needed to find a way to continue with the show, but maintain whatever passes for sanity. And I know if I want the show to grow, besides the couple dozen of you out there, committed listeners, and I love you guys, you are awesome. But to grow the show beyond our little group, I need to take things more seriously. I need to, commit more to creating more quality content. And, it's always been a labor of love, but it's still a lot of labor. Like a lot of labor. And for me to make everything work and for the show to ultimately survive and not burn out, I've just got to, take that step back. I got to not rush to put out a show every week. But when I want to be consistent, I want to get a good recording schedule, good editing schedule, good writing schedule, new review posts come up on this day and new episodes come up on this day at this time, and try and get a regular release schedule and get these things, tightened up and professional and shit. Because, I want to make it work. and I want to make it better. And it should not have taken me this long to say all this shit because I literally wrote this all down in a blog post and I probably could have said this in 5 minutes if I read it straight. But you know me, I just ramble. But yeah, this is me expanding on the shit that I typed on my phone. But yeah, so long story, already entirely too long. The show's coming back. It's going to be bi-weekly. I'm going to have a new theme. I'm going to be doing more. I'm restarting with the reviews and features. I'm going to try my damnedest to consistently have a podcast, a news story, and a personal story. Maybe I'll talk some parenting stuff. I'm going to be trying to do guests. If I do guests, they will be in addition to regular episodes. I'm not going to, because I really can't go with an interview and I have to get it out in time for the regular episode. Well, if I do that regular episode, that also means, like, if I put an interview in place of a regular episode, it means that I don't have a podcast review to go up that week. I don't have all this other stuff. Like, yeah, it's the, hey, I owe you a review. I owe you this stuff for the week, for the content, generally producing content, wanting to consistently produce the stuff, consistency and all that jazz. So yeah, I want to try and do more guests. I want to try and guest on shows again. When and how, I don't know yet. But these are the goals. This is what I want to do. I want to make the show better for you and for me and for everybody else out there. And yeah, I am considering, sidebar, I am considering possibly purging the feed. I don't know yet. I may make kind of a like an archive feed of the episodes of the show before I establish this format. But I don't know, because that's a lot of work. So I don't know, but just letting you know, that's maybe something that might happen. I don't know. I might not do it just because work, but that's where we are. That is what has happened. That's what's going on with the show. I do not have a date. I'm going to say that right now. I don't have a return date because right now I thought that I would have had the show back up by now. I really did. But we're also going into a chance of my boys going back on full distance learning. We just got a new dog. We've had a ton of adventures. We have. And yes, I'm going to talk about my gardens because we've had some exciting stuff happen. We finally have fucking tomatoes. Holy shit. We've had a lot of, garden adventures. We've had tons of stuff that we have done that I want to share with you, that I've been pulling my hair out that I haven't gotten to share with you. So tons of stuff to talk about. When exactly that's going to come to you, I don't know. I'm going to say I will have something by the start of the year. One way or another, I'm going to be back, I feel, around the first of the year. No guarantees of anything before that. I'm going to try. I need to get myself in the habit of sitting down and writing, of sitting down and looking up news stories, of sitting down and putting together features. I may or may not still be dropping audio clips from the shows just because that is a little bit of a time commitment, but we'll see. But that's what's coming. That is what's coming. And again, I don't have a solid timetable, but I'm telling you that because I don't want to, like I said, I'm telling you, I do not want to push past the start of the year unless something kicks me to where I can't do it. But I'm going to do my damnedest. And yeah, because I want to get back here and I want you to be able to listen to my bullshit while you're driving to work. If you're somebody who's able to go back to work. So, okay. I don't know how to end things, but I just want to say thank you. If you are actually listening to this and you have, stayed subscribed and all that jazz, thank you. Because, again, we're a small group and I'm sure I've lost a lot of people in the time since my last episode and since I went on break. So if you're listening to this, you're awesome. Thank you. More is coming. New, fresh, maybe kind of stuff. Speaking of which, I said I made a new theme. So I'm going to let you go now with the new Odd Dad Out theme. It is still a work in progress. I have not completely finalized this song, but it is under the working title of Oddball Crunch because I'm an asshole that way. But this song is something I worked on. There's a lot going on in this thing. It's a little messy. I need to, tweak the mix a little bit. I may need to re-record my guitar parts, but that is in fact me on the lead guitar in this song. It was a riff that I fucking was dicking around and I made this with it. So after way too much rambling, I will leave you with the new work in progress Odd Dad Out theme. Thank you and good night.